Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with our series, Dumbfounding Definitions, Dizzying Distinctions, and Diabolical Doctrines, a series sorting through some of the jargon of philosophy. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at what is a tabula rasa. Now, very simply, a tabula rasa is a blank slate. In philosophy, this term is used to refer to the belief that when you are born, your mind is blank. It has no innate ideas in it. It is a white piece of paper. According to this view, all your ideas come from your experiences that you have in your life. In this video, we're going to give a quick introduction to this idea. We're going to talk about its place in the history of philosophy, and then some reasons you might be concerned with it. Now, one cannot talk about a tabula rasa without talking about empiricism and rationalism. These were two key positions in Renaissance philosophy that have also hung around into modern philosophy and show up in ancient philosophy as well, but were very prominent in Renaissance philosophy. Rationalists claimed that at least some knowledge could be gained through something other than sense experience, while empiricists claimed that knowledge could only be gained through sense experience. The idea that we start as a tabula rasa or a blank slate was therefore a key part of many empiricist positions, because if you start with some knowledge, you clearly haven't gained that knowledge via sense experience. Now, someone who argues that the mind at birth is a tabula rasa would therefore deny the concept of innate ideas. Innate ideas are supposed to be those ideas that we are born with. For someone that thinks the mind is a tabula rasa, they claim that we have no innate ideas in our head when we are born, but merely pick up ideas and concepts through our senses. A number of philosophers throughout history were on either side of this debate. Plato thought that all of our ideas were innate, but we don't clearly grasp all of them, and that we needed Socratic dialogue, etc., in order to more better grasp those ideas. While Aristotle was a champion of the tabula rasa, arguing that the mind was a blank writing tablet. In fact, the phrase tabula rasa is thought to come from a Latin translation of Aristotle's works. However, the concept grew in recognition and popularity with the works of the empiricist John Locke. While Locke did not use the phrase tabula rasa, though some translations do credit him with it, he claimed that the mind was a white paper void of all characteristics without any ideas. On the other hand, Renaissance philosophers such as Descartes argued for a wide range of innate ideas. Now, it's important to note that there is variety in the views of those that claim to speak of the mind as a tabula rasa. So some claim that the mind is absent of both ideas and any faculties to manipulate ideas, and that those faculties are gained through experience, while others claim that the mind lacks specific ideas or beliefs, but has some faculties or abilities that allow it to manipulate any ideas that it encounters, but that those faculties cannot produce any simple ideas on their own themselves without experience. So those are two slightly different versions of this position. So you may see either one refer to the mind as a tabula rasa. It's important to understand exactly what they mean by that. Also note that one does not need to be an empiricist to believe in a mind that is a blank slate. You might think that we are born as blank slates, but also think that we can gain knowledge through something other than experience. You might think that through divine intervention causing you to believe something could give you knowledge. And if that wasn't an experience, then you might not be an empiricist, but you might still believe that people are born as tabula rasas. Now, there are some concerns that you might have with the idea of a tabula rasa. One objection could be to take a version of Ibn Sina's, commonly referred to as Avicenna's, floating man thought experiment. Avicenna argues that even a floating man who perceives nothing, seeing nothing, hearing nothing, feeling nothing, etc., would still be able to have ideas of self-awareness, to be able to perceive his own identity and existence, even if he didn't have any actual empirical experiences. We might imagine that a child, similarly completely depraved of any sensory experience, would eventually also gain that same sense awareness of themselves, and so could be able to formulate ideas completely absent any real experiences. Now, the empiricist might argue that perhaps the experience they're having is not an experience of the senses, but rather an experience of time, perhaps, or an experience of self. It's not that those ideas were born innately, but rather that the experiences one is having are not the common sensory experiences, but the experience of the passage of time, for example. So An interesting argument could go back and forth there. We also might question whether such a person could develop ideas such as of things like logical truths or mathematical truths without any sense experience. Once again, you could imagine the child, the person suspended without any sensory experiences and these things, but in some way getting sustenance and so on. Could they, just with their mind alone, come up with particular mathematical truths? The rationalist might say that yes, they can, because those truths are in some way born into them, innate into them, and they don't require any sensory experience. However, given that different mathematical and logical models may be more or less accurate at explaining individual situations, the empiricist might suggest that one couldn't come up with the mathematical truths that actually map onto our real experience of the world, absent those experiences, since those truths are maybe more contingent than we give them credit for. They are perhaps not as necessary in all possible worlds as we think they are. One could imagine a world where bringing two sets of two things together leads them to magically create an additional fifth thing. If I can imagine it, it probably is a possible world. It might be a strange world, but if it is even logically possible, mathematical truths like 2 + 2 = 4 might not actually be logically necessary. And so they would be hard to prove without experience, because you don't know if you're in that other possible world where a fifth thing emerges or in this one. What do you think? Are you a blank slate when you were born, or do you have innate ideas? Are there ways to gain knowledge outside of sensory experience? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Watch this video and more here at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.